Good morning. Good morning. Good to have Grandma Ellie here.
Dang right.
Good to be here.
Good to be here. I don't know if everyone knows when we had the Thanksgiving.
That's my fault.
TJ, do not sit next to Heather. God, everybody knows she's a bad influence. So Grandma Ellie falls before we go down, right, 20, 30 minutes before the Thanksgiving potluck, right?
Well, it was, like
half hour. She didn't want to miss anything. So,
first in line.
and so she's got a bump like this. And we're like, we're going to call the doctor. We're going to call Greg. You got to go to the emergency room. She's like, no, I'm okay. This thing is like this. I'm not exaggerating, this far out there. I'm like, I'm going to call Greg. Nope. I'm like, Grandma Ellie, we have to negotiate here. I'm like, this isn't working out. We're not letting you leave here by yourself. So finally, we get Greg, her son, to come over to pick her up. And then she gets in the car with Greg and tells him to get in the passenger seat, and she drives out of here. So I text her, like, please, I beg you, it'll make me feel better, go to the doctor. That night I get a call, she's in the doctor of 2 broken ribs. But the most important thing of this is she sat down, she says, listen, you think I can get food before anyone else comes around? Now this is a living, live, walking example. You got to have priorities in life, right? Grandma Ellie was definitely not a vegetarian. How are we doing? Everyone have a good Thanksgiving? Yes. Last sales meeting of the year. We really kind of got some house cleaning things. Scott's going to talk about a couple things, but we got a great video to kick this off with that hopefully will make everyone laugh and cry all at the same time.
This year for Christmas, what are you hoping to get?
A computer, big giant Barbie house,
a trophy case,
Xbox 360, Minecraft Legos.
What do you think your mom or dad want for Christmas?
My mom would probably want a ring. She's never really had a ring.
Jewelry, she loves jewelry. A new TV, like watches.
So, we actually did buy an Xbox 360.
What in the world? I wanted this! Okay, you really got this for me?
A new laptop.
Wow!
And
It's a necklace!
so we also bought a necklace because you said you also wanted to get a necklace for your mom or your auntie. The catch is that you can either get a gift for yourself, or you can pick a gift for your mom and dad. I need you to pick one. Now before you answer, oh, I bet that's hard. Is that a really hard question?
Mm-hmm.
What gift do you pick?
I choose this.
I gotta go with the ring.
What gift do you pick?
That one. That dress.
I'll choose this for my mom.
I'll choose this one.
It's a really tough question.
I'll
but
give him this.
You already know? Tell me why.
Because Legos don't matter. Your family matters. Not Legos, not toys, your family. So it's either family or Legos, and I choose family.
I get gifts every year from my family, and my mom don't get anything.
If I get a laptop, my mama will get something. She helps me when I'm sick. She helps me with my homework. She gave me a house to live in.
They look out for me and do stuff for me, so I need to give back to them.
Now I have the opportunity to give him something.
Because you actually picked the gift for your family, you're actually gonna go home with both. Tell me how you're feeling.
I'm feeling really happy and thankful.
Just happy. Thankful.
For your family? For what?
My family, everything.
He did make his decision, actually. And he picked the Pandora charms.
Oh, that is sweet. You're gonna make me cry. So where you putting it in your room? Oh, it's for me? Oh, it's so cute.
Thanks, guys.
I was trying to.
We got to bring tissues to these sales meetings, guys. Brooke plays that. Janet and I are in her office. People are coming in and out. We're sitting there crying like babies. So I thought that was a very, very cool video that I don't know where you found that at, Brooke, but loved it, loved it, loved it. So Christmas season's here, so I hope everybody does have a wonderful holiday, spends it with their family, be with the people you love and enjoy all of the things that we do have so much to be thankful for. So, hey, we want to introduce, we just hired a new manager. Sarah, can you come up real quick? She didn't know she was going to do this. 15, 20-minute speech, that's all you need to do. Okay. Now, once here, we had nothing for the last 5 minutes, so I offered $100 for someone to give a motivational speech, and then it was $200. Where's the cowboy? He's not here. And he gets up and he's like, all right, raise your right arm. Raise your left arm. Give me my $200. So Sarah was the general manager, was in sales first. I'll let her tell a little bit about herself. Then was the general manager over at Heartland in Council Bluffs, the biggest broker over there. And so we've hired her. She's going to help us hopefully continue to build up and build on the momentum that we have in Council Bluffs, and we're excited about that because, again, as most of you know, we've just remodeled that office, and we're even looking to take more space over there if we can get some of the people that we think we're going to get. But she's going to be stationed over here to continue to help Daryl and Heather and Brian and Scott and I, all of us in this location, to continue to manage the people we have here. And again, one of the things within our organization, it does not matter if you're in the Regency office, the Sarpy office, or this office, you can call any manager at any location. We are all here to help all of you. And if you've got a relationship with one person, if you're in Regency and Mark's the guy you usually call, but he's tied up in a meeting, reach out to one of us and vice versa. So we are all here as a team to help you. That's who we want to always be. So Sarah, talk a little bit about yourself, a minute or two. You don't have to give a 15-minute speech.
I was in sales at NP Dodge for about 7 years and then was at Heartland Properties for 3. I had 50 agents, so this is a big change, but I'm super excited about it. I live over in Council Bluffs. When I was in sales, my business was done over here. I have 3 kids. They're 15, 14, and 10, so they keep me really busy with wrestling and gymnastics. But my phone will always be on, email, text, Facebook message me, whatever. I'll answer, and hopefully we'll have the correct answer, otherwise I'll go to him.
Guys, let's welcome her aboard. Please make her feel welcome as you see floating around here. So Shannon and I are watching that video this morning, and we're not even going to say the names, but we're like, we think 2 of our 3 kids would probably took the gift for themselves. We're not positive all 3 would, but we're really positive 2 would. They say, oh, they got everything they need. It doesn't matter. I need that. Which scares me a little bit. I think we've spoiled our kids too much. Scott, can I have you come up? I'm going to have Scott go through a couple things here real quick. One is, I don't know if you guys saw and I stole this out of someone's box, so I'll put it back in there. Fred gave me this one, but the commission comments, you've got more and more people, and this is interesting to Fred, because obviously Fred talks a lot about investing and buying real estate yourself, but the article is really talking about people that are buying properties for themselves, but also possibly talking about listing the properties. So can you kind of walk through the legalites of this and what can and can't be done? Because Greg Lemon has said on a couple different occasions that he thinks there's a number of agents not doing this correctly, and they're going to start taking a little harsher look at this.
I was going to say, the only thing that made me cry about that video is how certain I was that my son would have taken the Legos. So Greg came out with a commission comment where he was talking about the kind of proliferation of agents buying investment properties and how you can do direct mailers on it. And he's walking kind of a fine line on what he thinks is something that would come within the agency duties versus something that would be outside of that. He was pretty clear in every advertisement that you would put out there that you'd have to, at the very least, have to disclose that you're a real estate agent. That was clear within it. And then he got into
even if you're buying it not using your license.
Right, exactly. Even if you're just an independent person who's going to use your own money, he says you've got to put on that advertisement that you are a licensed real estate agent. Then he got into further things about whether it comes within the advertising rules, whether you have to comply with those. And he said things that would make the commission believe that it would need that would be if the phone number came back to you as a broker, came back to your brokerage, was your business number for business, your email address, anything like that. He believed, okay, now we've switched over, and that would require full compliance with the real estate advertising rules, meaning your name, your brokerage, together, compliance with that. Anything where you would say, hey, I want to buy this from you, but if you don't want to sell it to me, I'm more than happy to list it for you. Again, he says now you've gone to the point where if that's part of your play, is that you're going to have to comply with those rules. So that's that comment on that portion. What else we want to? Okay, then another thing, and boy, this comes up over and over again, but there was a real estate commission complaint against an agent up in Neely, Nebraska. And he had, in 2011, got a misdemeanor conviction that he didn't report on his 2012 license renewal. And they punished him this year for it. So I don't know the
So those of you that were criminals 8 years ago, report it now.
Yep. And so I don't know, Joe's not in here. I don't know the background of the facts for that, but clearly at some point someone submitted it, or he went, oh, I should have done this. But whatever it was, he ended up getting probation for a full year with that time being suspended. So he, and a $1,000 fine. So they're not messing around with that. And some of the harshest punishments that they've handed out is the failure to disclose those things, where it seems like you can kind of do whatever you want, but you have to disclose it. That's what's important to them. Then what else we're going to do? You can murder somebody. Just be upfront about it.
Who is Santa calling?
Then there is another law that is being put out there about what can unlicensed assistants do. Now, it's been, the Real Estate Commission set out rules as to what they could and couldn't do. They decided that they needed something further, and they wanted to actually put a law in place. And they actually wanted to broaden it a little as to what they could do going forward. This is an unlicensed assistant. And so there's a law that is going to be sent to the legislature that had come out of a commission that was put together by the Real Estate Commission. And trying to get the
now this is being put forward by the state association, because the Real Estate Commission, I wish Joe was here, the Real Estate Commission is not 100% behind this right now.
Right.
And actually they were going to wait till 2021. I was sitting in an MLS Board of Directors meeting 2 weeks ago. I'm like, that's crazy. I'm like, the purpose of the association is to protect us and act in the best interest of the agents and the brokers, right, in the business. The purpose of the Real Estate Commission, regardless of what we think, is to protect the public. So we're not always going to be 100% aligned in our visions of what we want to do and what they want to do. And I said, if they're not opposing it, why would we not, at minimum, go ahead and propose this for 2020, because this is something we need to get passed, and then let's talk them through the process as to why we would like them to be on board. But if they're not going to go testify against us, then do we really care? It'd be best if they would testify and say they think this is best for the public too. But this is coming through the association without, right at this moment, the blessing of the Real Estate Commission.
Right. They're going to move it on, but they're not really taking a position on it one way or the other.
Yes.
All right. So what the whole point of it is that this is going to be an act to, what can an unlicensed assistant say? And so, of course, the way they look at it is what are the exceptions to the rules as to what isn't, practice of real estate without a license. And so and just kind of sum it up, but it's basically that an unlicensed assistant can make calls or other initial contact to set up appointments with a licensed real estate broker or salesperson and provide information on the services of the broker or the salesperson's offers, provided that such unlicensed person, partnership, limited liability company, corporation, acting under this exception does not discuss the prospect's motivation or motivating factors or the price a prospect is willing to offer or accept, and does not bind that person in any way to the agent that the unlicensed assistant is calling about.
That clears it up.
Right. Should be simple. So I mean, what the point is that to designate, hey, yes, your unlicensed assistant can set up appointments. Your unlicensed assistant can collate information and provide it to you as an agent. Your unlicensed assistant can make initial contact, but then there's a magical line that's drawn as to what they can say on the phone and what they can't say on the phone. The the Realtors Association wanted more in there, and they've suggested additions where it says that this licensed assistant has a duty up front to say, who are you calling on? Who are you calling from? Where? I am Scott Vogt. I'm a licensed assistant or unlicensed assistant for Ralph Marasco. I'm calling you to set up an appointment to show the house or something like that. That would be the color that the commission or the Realtors Association wants on it, just so it's even more clear as to what your duty is and where you are. The whole point, of course, is to try to cut down on all of these out-of-state calls that people are getting from a certain real estate broker that has a call center in Arizona.
So
maybe the initials K-Dub.
First of all, Ralph, how's Scott working out for you?
Not well.
Not so well.
I get fired daily.
A lot of this is born out of Zillow and all these other companies, right? They're doing things that we're not even as an industry being able to do. Right. And so most of you probably don't know, because we've had the Real Estate Commission call and complain on some of the people here in the organization. You cannot have the unlicensed assistants even call to set up a listing appointment, even if they say nothing else about it, which seems crazy to me. So you've got to get this law through, because we've got to be in the real world, because you are getting more and more people that have unlicensed assistants that are just reaching out to do things for people. So this makes sense to me for us as an industry, make sure this thing gets passed. So it'll be interesting to see how this thing shakes out.
Right, and part of the issues that were going on is the complaints that were getting made, where you had licensed assistants for very important agents in town doing everything for them. Where they were negotiating, they were putting addendums together, they were doing all that stuff because the agent was just busy at each listing agreement, and then basically would give it to the assistant to take over the file. And they were saying, look, that was too far, that was a violation of the rules. But then as always, we tend to want to overcorrect on trying to shut that things down. And so this is to try to open it up a little bit more so it makes more sense and more reasonable.
Any questions? Yes.
The main message, what it comes down to is, people are doing this, are buying people's property from people that are down and out. They say, hey, I will buy your house, I'll give you $1,000, I'll help you move, I like you, I'm gonna give you a U-Haul, make this very easy for you, you don't have to do any home inspections. And what's happening, they buy these properties.
See, Ralph, I mean Ralph.
Agents are buying
these
properties.
Fred, you gotta put that mic up to you.
Agents are buying these properties, and the next day, they're listing on the MLS and making $20,000. It's about being ethical and about doing the right thing for people. So hopefully, if any of you are ever faced with the opportunity to buy a property from someone that's down and out, list the property and then tell them, hey, if this doesn't sell in a week or two, I'll give you this much. And they will make a lot more money, even if it's $5,000, $3,000. There's a lot of agents that are doing this now, and the main message behind this is, I can tell you, if I was a real estate agent, I would not want to buy a property from anybody that's down and out, because you end up getting a lawsuit at some point.
Yeah.
That's a real message behind the whole thing.
It really is an ethical question, and I tend to agree with Fred that if you got someone down and out, you don't want to just go buy something for the sake of buying it. Give them an opportunity to list that and make as much as you can on that. Yes?
In that same vein, I'm glad Fred brought that up, because it does stick in me for our industry to take advantage of people when they're in that position, especially when we know the home is worth more, we know we can get them more.
If TJ was speaking, we would not need this.
Yeah.
I was going to say, yeah, that's why we're looked at like used car salesmen when we go try and steal properties from people. Those of us who are investors, it makes me really sick. But to protect ourselves, because we have gone into listing appointments and we thought they would be a great rental and they don't want to do things, and we show them the numbers. We can list it on this is what we can do. Is there something that we should put in a file to, protect ourselves, or just put that all in dot loop?
Well, if you're in your case, if you're saying, if we list it, here's what we think we should list it at, and here's what we think is reasonable for you to get in a short period of time, because they may be in a crunch needing the money, right? I would love to have you, if they say, no, we just want to sell it to you, it'd be nice to have them just scribble at the bottom that, I was offered to list the property, I decided to sell it, and just have them initial or sign that. I think then it becomes crystal clear that you've at least at minimum went through the options available to them in the process.
Yeah.
And I think you should feel better about yourself, honestly, at that point in time also, if you go through that process. So I would, we always talk about you can't communicate too often with your buyers and sellers. This is the case where I don't think you can clarify or over communicate with a client and say, here's your real options in this process?
We actually got a letter from a lawyer saying, hey, she sold it for a lot less than she could have, in the agent. And that agent had done a phenomenal job of having an email where she said, here are 3 things that would affect the price. You could sell it for this, you could do this, and you could do this. I sent that back to the attorney, and that's been 6 months since I've heard from him. It's over once he can show, hey.
There's nothing more than arm's length.
Right.
Right.
Let's get my steps in.
I think Mamie kind of cleared it up for me. I was just curious because twice in my career I've had people that were literally hoarders, and I've said, I can list your house if we get this and this done, and they say, no, I don't want to do it. I just want to get out. So I have a CMA, and I have them sign a letter that says, I've been advised that this property could be sold for X. So are we okay doing that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And just make sure you have it in your file, because that's when we need it.
Yeah. Have it when we get sued. The question came up yesterday, and I've not got back to Scott on this, but one is, in the state of Nebraska, someone said someone close to them had bought a property. They were going to develop it. It doesn't look like it's going to work out. Now they want to know, can the agent list it for them? And I said, if it's, one is, I'm going to take a step back. In the state of Nebraska, contracts are assignable by law, right? Unless it's otherwise stated, correct?
Right.
So if you buy a property from somebody, you got a buyer that buys a property, and someone else all of a sudden comes in and says, I want to offer them $50,000 more for that, they could assign that property, take the $50,000. Now the first buyer would still be responsible to the terms and conditions. Tell me when I get the lawyer stuff wrong here. The first buyer would still be responsible for the terms and conditions of that contract, could take the $50,000, and then the second buyer could buy that, and the seller would not even need to sign off on that, short of something in the purchase agreement preventing that.
Right.
See? Yes, Tracy. And then go ahead.
Do you have to disclose that hey, I'm flipping this, I'm going to sell it right away? Or?
You would not have to disclose it. I think it comes down to more of an ethical issue as far as, I agree with Fred on that. But so my point is, now in the case of, here's where it gets tricky if we're real estate agents and we got the buyer. We got a buyer that buys something for $400,000. Someone else wakes up the next morning, and this was a case a couple days ago, or last week, and they're like, God, I really wish I would have bought that house. Offer them, and I think it was like $800,000. They wanted to offer like $50,000 more after they could have bought it the first time around. My question, the seller's not paying 2 buyer's agents commissions, right? So Heather has the first buyer. Scott comes in as the second buyer. We need to make sure that we sit down and figure out who's going to get paid on the commission on this thing. Because if I'm Heather and I sold it to buyer number 1, I don't want to give up the commission because now all of a sudden Scott's person's coming in. So part of that $50,000 may have to go to take care of Heather because both agents are going to want to get paid on this. So if you get in those situations, grab us. But contracts by law in the state of Nebraska are assignable. The question that came up yesterday,
Land contract,
is well, let me ask a question. If you just have a purchase contract on land, but if you have a purchase contract and it's not closed, it's going to close because you got a due diligence period for 180 days, you can't really go list that for the buyer. You can market it for the buyer, but how do you do that? How do you market that for the buyer? You can't list it because the buyer doesn't have the right to list it with you because they don't own the property. Short of the seller having given them permission to do so.
Exactly. So you'd want the seller's permission to do it, and then you'd have to put in there that they have a contingent right to sell it, which is a contingent right to buy and a contingent right to sell. Right?
What's that mean in just in lay terms?
Why do we have to make it so simple? Basically, right, that I'm a buyer. I have the right to buy this house. I've got a contract that says Scott votes to buy this house, but I also want to sell my position to somebody else so they can step in and close on it.
Okay.
And so what you're basically saying in the MLS, which is, we just saw this, didn't we? Where someone had, who was I talking to? I was just talking to somebody about this, where they had a
40's the new 50. You start.
Maybe the 30. They had a percentage ownership interest in the house that they were selling with a right to buy the whole. It was a crazy estate issue that they had. And so that's how the agent was marketing, which is I'm going to sell my interest that I have plus my purchase agreement to someone else to buy it so they can buy the whole. And so that's how they market it, which was the right way of doing it. It's weird as it was, that was the right way of putting it in there. So you knew that you had to get Megan Owens. Megan Owens had this. So, boom, still got it.
You want to give that to Mark back there?
Mark?
Bottom line is, if you have one of these things, get a hold of us so we can walk through these to make sure that everyone's on the same page and knows what's going on. Make sense? Go ahead.
In the case where a sale is being assigned, wouldn't it be simpler just to have the second buyer pay the second agent a buyer's agent commission rather than?
Yes, probably.
So if it's $50,000, they pay another $20,000 buyer agency.
If they're willing to do that, yes. Yeah.
If they want the house that bad, they would.
Hopefully, right. Right in front of you.
Oh, you're going to have to.
Do we know if all of these apply to Iowa as well, or are the laws different as far as contracts signable and that sort of thing?
Yeah, no idea.
You can. Sarah, do you know the answer to that? She doesn't think they're signable in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, there's a difference between something being freely assignable and something actually having to be signed off by the seller. And even in Nebraska, the buyer who stepped in would have to still qualify to buy the house. So you couldn't freely assign it to somebody with no money and say, oh, I'm out. It'd still have to be someone qualified who could actually buy the house under the terms that you had. So that would still be a requirement under it.
All right. Are we done with Scott?
No, we gotta get the energy up in the room and talk about warranties.
Go ahead. All right, so. Scott, Heather, Jay, and I all had a meeting with the home warranty people a couple weeks ago, and honestly, it was an eye-opener for us to dig deep in this because we were a little confused, and so I think in some of our mastermind groups, we've been misleading you. So we've asked Scott to put together a little cheat sheet of what each program is, what's covered in this free warranty coverage. Before he dives into that one important move, Carrie, are we on board to do this at the beginning of the year?
Sure.
That was the right answer.
You gotta love your employees that just are agreeable to everything. Sometime at the beginning of the year, we're going to put in process. Right now, the system is to get that free from AHS or from 210 to get the free coverage for the seller, which I think everybody should be doing. We had somebody in a mastermind group yesterday that said they've used AHS 3 times. Is Rusty right? 3 times in the last couple months. Rusty right? And it's worked very well. And he says, how's this work forever? I said, well, at some point in time, we're going to have to make sure that we're letting buyers buy these or this isn't going to work. But this is crazy. We talk about concierge service, adding more value to our clients. Not giving them a free service of warranty during the listing period is crazy. The problem we have right now is you got to check the box. But checking the box doesn't really do anything. You got to check the box, and then you have to call Kevin at AHS or Lori at 210 to implement the process. So the process we're going to try to put in place is Carrie is going to have Jordy. I think we're going to have Jordy who inputs listings. Go ahead at the time that we're inputting listings, process all these. So if there's a box check, so we're going to take it from right now you've got to opt in to where you're automatically in. You're going to automatically have the coverage unless you would opt out of it. And if you haven't checked one of the 2 boxes, we'll probably have someone call you and say, hey, do you want to have this? You haven't opted out. Do you want AHS or do you want 210 for that? And then we will put together a spreadsheet and send it off to AHS or 210. We've not worked out the details of that on a weekly basis to make sure that your people are covering that. We think it's that important that it's crazy that we're not using these programs.
So you don't have to call then anymore?
Well, as of sometime, give me January 15th, okay? Is that fair? By January 15th, we can implement this?
This makes a lot more sense.
So by January 15th, we'll get this implemented because we know that's a stress for you guys to pick up that phone and call to get that coverage. So we're about making your life easier.
And Fred, when we announce it, we'll send out a new listing agreement that just changes it so it says, hey, look, just pick one of these 2 and it'll be automatic. And of course, we'll also have boxes if you
We'll have a sales meeting, we'll announce it, so
company.
you 225 people will know about it. The other 700 are screwed.
That'd be true if we sent an email out too. Only 10% would read. Okay, so here's kind of an apples to apples comparison of the 2 plans that AHS and 210 offer, and it's important to know that there's levels. They get different plans, but these are the ones that are probably the most standard plans that they offer. And I think a lot of the stuff we do, right? If you get a service call, it's $75 for 210. It's $100 at AHS. The Shield Plus plan from AHS is $690. The 210 plan is $545. But
that's if you're buying it for the buyer.
If you're buying it for the buyer, right? This is the final policy that you would buy if you're the seller and you're buying, or if you're a buyer and you want to buy one. And so $545. So that includes the air conditioning heat pump coverage.
$595 includes air conditioning heat pump.
That is correct, when you put the extra $50 in there. Okay, and so what the real differences are is, one, 210, of course, is cheaper. AHS is more expensive. AHS would argue, yes, we're more expensive, but we're giving you more.
You got these two backwards. It's 100 over here and it's 75 over there.
So you got to flip that.
Is that important? You give this guy one easy project, and we're on line 2 and it's already messed up. Yeah. We need to make him a licensed assistant.
I shouldn't make phone calls. All right, so, whatever.
A little here, a little there, who cares?
We're going to make a big deal out of numbers. We never did at CBS Home. We didn't want to look at them.
I didn't say nothing.
Just read it yourselves.
So this next one is a really big one.
Right. Which one? Is it right?
The rust. Yes, okay. You have it right.
Rust and corrosion. So 210 is not going to cover rust and corrosion. AHS will. If it's insufficiently maintained, they're not going to cover it. AHS will cover it. If it's improperly installed or repaired, 210 is not going to cover it. AHS will. So they kind of do a review before they actually do the work, while AHS just does the work. So that's kind of the benefit that you get there, even though it's a little more expensive. And then the most important thing between the two plans is, and this is not talking about listing coverage, this is talking about a final buyer's plan, is that AHS has no cap. It's unlimited. So 210 has a $15,000 total all-in cap. That's the total benefit you can get out of the warranty thing, while AHS has no such cap. And then, so when we're looking at the listing coverage, there's two things to know, which is, one is appliances are not covered under AHS's plan on listing coverage, nor can you get that coverage. You can get it as a buyer plan, but you do not get it in the listing coverage. 210, on the other hand, covers appliances, but they do not cover the AC or a heat pump unless you pay an additional $50 for listing coverage.
Up front.
That gets billed to you the moment. So if you, on the new listing agreement that we'll have, we'll say, do you want the AHS listing coverage or the 210? And then it'll say, if you want the 210 coverage, do you want the additional coverage of $50 for the air conditioning heat pump? It's going to completely depend on the time of the year, right?
And so the problem is, you take this coverage, you don't do this, your air conditioner goes out in June, and you're like, oh, I'll pay the $50 now.
Too late.
No, it doesn't work that way. So it's got to be done up front. So that's a big deal that we found out.
Right. And and so both say that they have complimentary coverage, and then of course I've got seller's coverage limited. Under AHS has a $2,000 total cap on their seller's coverage. AHS is a $2,000 total cap on their listing coverage, and then 210 has $1,500 per category, but $3,000 per covered for an appliance.
Have we made that as clear as mud?
That I've done my job.
Hold on. Okay, so questions.
How is that paid at front?
The $50?
You're going to get a bill to you.
The seller. The seller. The question was,
seller has to pay for that.
How's the $50 on 210 paid? They'll get a bill from, the seller will get a bill from 210 on that.
So Lori will send you out a bill
now,
if you opt in on that one.
When Scott's saying appliances are covered on 210, not washer and dryer.
Right.
So it's basically kitchen appliances. Yeah. Any other questions on this? Show of hands, who's utilizing these programs right now? Guys, this is crazy that we don't have more people. The other thing that takes place is, because of the contract Berkshire Hathaway and HomeServices set up with everyone, we have a concierge hotline, right? So we have a concierge hotline that you as agent can call. So there should not be any of this. It's taken a week or 10 days or 15 days to get something done. Call them. we're going to be expedited. Nobody else in the country has that program. And if you have any issues 2 days later, give me a call. I'll call up to Minneapolis and I'll have them call them. But we should have a huge competitive advantage. Shoot away.
So my question is, if somebody's going to set it up for us in the beginning,
yes.
If we get a contract and the seller doesn't want to buy it, who's going to cancel the contract?
Remember, there's a huge difference between the seller's listing coverage and actually buying the policy. There is no requirement that you end up buying the policy.
Right, but we get a bill now.
Right. And so you would just say, all you do is you got the bill, you'd say negotiate it out or wasn't requested as part of the final purchase agreement.
Okay, so
That's
we're
all you'd
going
say.
to do that then.
Yep. And then they will let that bill go because that's part of the contract.
Yeah, so there's no obligation for the seller when they put this program in place to buy this for the buyer. Right. That is their hope and their wish. Diane, did you have your hand up?
Oh, I was just saying, what you mentioned yesterday at Mastermind was awesome because I used to have problems with Service One taking like weeks, but you said even in the first year of home ownership, we could call the concierge hotline if they have a problem.
On 210
Not
and
AHA.
AHS and 210 both have that concierge service. Yes.
Right.
Any other questions about this? Guys, please, let's get more and more of you using this. This is crazy. This differentiates us from anybody else in the marketplace.
So again, confirming with both of them, if they both get negotiated out and there's no coverage on the purchase contract at all, we get our property inspection done, we can still call them for the deductible and they'll come out and fix stuff.
Yeah, so if you put this on day one, and that's what Rusty was talking about, right, Rusty? And the home inspection comes back, and there's 3 things in that home inspection that needs to be done by the plumber. We've clarified in both cases with each one of them. So if 210 comes out, the plumber's going to fix all 3 things, and we didn't get clarity on that until about 3-4 weeks ago, for the $100 fee. Same thing, if AHS comes out, and it's 3 things that the plumber needs to do, they'll fix all 3 things. Same thing on an electrician. So it's per vendor. So if the electrician comes out and the plumber comes out and they're both doing 2 or 3 things, it doesn't matter. They're going to pay $75 each on AHA for the electrician, $75 for the plumber, and then $100 each on 210. Yes?
I'd recommend to tell people that when they're talking to the sellers.
In going through this, Lindsay's been very instrumental in helping this out, but just prep your sellers by stating like, hey, it's a good thing, but it doesn't guarantee, because what happens, you say, hey, free coverage, and then something comes back and they don't do it. We just had one of the things that was covered, I was surprised, it was a plumbing vent pipe going out the stack of the house, and I'm like, look, this might be covered, might not, but as long as you prep them up front, then you're not like signing your name on the dotted line saying it's going to be done.
And you've been using AHS.
Yeah.
And that's our experience. AHS is really pretty much covered. Their rule is if it's not visible or known, we're going to cover it. And that's where this rust and corrosion thing has really been a big deal.
Right, and that's what it says right there. The 210, when they look at it, they say, look, we're going to do a visual inspection and a mechanical test. While AHS says, we're just going to do an ordinary visual inspection, no mechanical test. And so they're going to, if it doesn't work, they're going to fix it. 210 might do a little more research to find out why it's broken or whether it's someone's fault or badly installed. AHS is just going to fix it. So that, really, they're both really good plans. The real difference is, do you want to pay more for this one or less for that one?
I did have a situation where a water heater failed under an AHS plan just before closing. It did cost the seller $250, but I think it was a pretty specialized water heater, and the real difficulty was the first person they sent indicated that they weren't going to fix it, but it really wasn't that it wasn't needing fixed, it was that they didn't carry that kind of water heater. So I've had a little bit of an issue with some of the providers that they've sent out, but I did escalate the call, and it got covered. And, it was about a $250 exclusion, but it was far better than the $800 it could have been. So
if you got issues on those type of things, call Scott.
And then I'll text Vince.
That's how it works. Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. Maggie, can you come up? Nebraska Furniture Mart is in Omaha, obviously. They're in Dallas, and they're in Kansas City. And so we're trying to work on get a uniform agreement between all 3 markets with us and Nebraska Furniture Mart. Can you tell us where we're at in that process?
Yep, so we currently have an NFM program today. There's a flyer in the bhhsamb.com underneath marketing resources. You can use it for your buyers, your sellers, yourself. Basically, if you go to the mart and you tell them that you're with BHHS Ambassador, there's a discount. Right now, the way the program works is we don't exactly know what that discount is. So if I'm going to buy a TV, and it's already way cheap, there's no discount on that. But if I'm going to be doing like a new couch with some custom upholstery, new carpet, new flooring, there's discounts on that at different levels. What we're trying to do is to get it to be some sort of a flat discount that's pretty understandable, and they will help market to the clients. So we're seeing it a little different in every single market, like Vince mentioned, Dallas, KC, and Omaha. They are working on kind of standardizing that across the markets for the home services companies. The good news is it's in place today. It is a discount for your buyers and sellers. It's preferred or family pricing, so you can use those types of terms with them and get a discount today. In a couple of weeks, they're meeting next week on this. So in a couple of weeks, it could be a little bit more clear where it's like a 12 or 15% discount across the board. But again, electronics, washers, dryers, things like that they're already heavily discounting, they may not be able to offer it on that.
And so our understanding right now is what we have is the friends of family discount pricing.
Yep.
And I don't know if anybody knows, but usually if you use that discount, you can't get the financing that they want, like the 0% financing.
It depends.
Okay.
The biggest thing is when your buyers and sellers are in there, they need to make sure that who's ever helping them knows that they're a client with BHHS Ambassador, and they will go back and look up what the discount is on each item and help walk them through what's going to be the better deal, if that makes sense.
Is there any sort of proof that they need that they're like a client of ours, or?
I'll ask. I can repeat the question.
Is there any proof that they're a client of ours? Right now, there's a flyer or a postcard that all they have to do is bring it in. So.
It says right there, it says have the agent's card. I think is where I read that somewhere.
So they are putting together marketing pieces for us right now that'll be branded to Berkshire Hathaway and Nebraska Furniture Mart that we'll be able to hand out to our clients.
Yep.
So we'll get more clarity on this in the next week or two.
Okay.
My comment, I don't know how many places offer discounts that turn out to be nothing more than I could get any place I went on my own.
Grandma LA was hit hard in the head.
That really irritates me, and just so this doesn't come off like that.
No, I totally agree with you, and that's why it varies based off of what your clients are buying. If the big things is going to be new furniture, flooring, if they're replacing all of the carpet, things like that, that's where we tend to see where people are going to get the most discount. They're not going to get a good deal going in and buying a 4K TV right now. They're just not. They can't discount something that's already at the lowest level possible.
Any other questions? So we are trying to get clarity to simplify this process, but the bottom thing is they're not offering this to any other real estate brokerage or real estate agents. We will be the only brokerage that's going to have this discount. We do know in conjunction with this, Chris Stewart is working on a national level with Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices with other Berkshire Hathaway companies. We had this conversation in September, getting a number of these discounts with a number of the Berkshire Hathaway companies. So this is something they're working on. So I'm hoping within the next 6 months, we'll have a handful, not just Nebraska Furniture Mart.
I hope you get Borsheims too.
Borsheims, Dairy Queen. So thank you, Maggie. I appreciate that. Last couple things, guys. Oh, I wasn't done with you. I need you or Heather to give me an update on Move Guru. And kind of walk through again real quick what that is, and we're hoping to have that kicked off here pretty soon.
Yep, so Move Guru is a program. It's kind of concierge services. So the idea behind it is once your transaction in .loop is pending, it'll kick off an email to the client. It will help them transfer utilities, but it's also going to offer them discounts on things like local pizza places, probably NFM, moving services. Our preferred vendors that we're already working with will be available in here as well. And that is coming, I would say, January-ish timeframe would be ready to roll that out.
So MUD, OPVD, Cox Cable, all those type of things, they're going to go and set that up for your new buyers. There's no charge to you as the agent or to the client.
Basically, your client types in their new address and it helps them identify who's servicing those areas. And then it will help, like if you're trying to do Cox, it's going to tell you what your rates are with Cox for that area. If you can get CenturyLink out there, whatever services you might want.
So that, we're excited about getting that. As we head into 2020, our entire focus is on how do we communicate more effectively and efficiently with our clients, right? And how do we continue to add value to them that we've not been doing in the past. And so it's about putting these programs in place. And so I really feel like we're getting close to that point where we're doing things that no one else is doing that we need to be utilizing as vehicles. A quick update, Sarpy County is about 4 months behind, but we're getting to the finish line. I think that hopefully the carpet and tile is going in and should be finished this week, and then the furniture should be going in next week. So that's our new office down there. We've already got a couple of those offices full. We're excited about that. That will not be manned, but there's going to be 2 conference rooms there. Please pop in there. Those of you who have not got to the Regency office, we're actually going to start holding a couple mastermind groups down at the Regency office. Try to pop in there. It is a really cool office. They got some great conference rooms down there also. But the fob you have will get you into Council Bluffs, which is just remodeled, to the current Sarpy County office. It will get you into the new Sarpy County office, the Regency office, or this office. So any of those offices, your fob is going to be able to get you into if you're in that part of town and you want to sit down and meet a client, use a copier, or any of those type of things. So let's take advantage of that. If anyone's interested in office and now that office down there, grab me and I'll be happy to talk to you. Yes?
Do we have to have our printers, our computers aligned with printers in different locations?
We do. So in each location, we have to get them aligned.
It's cloud print, but it prints to that office's cloud.
So if you're going to go to another, if you think you're going to ever pop in another office, go up to talk to tech and have them align that for you.
But we don't have a copier in the new one yet. We will.
Okay. All right. Couple last things real quick. The Lincoln and Omaha MLSs obviously have merged together. They have a committee right now, which we don't have anybody on, which I was a little irritated on, putting together a uniform purchase agreement. So a couple of things that they said they decided on that I said, well, you need to back off here a little bit on, or we're not going to do this, is that they were going to take the radon clause out of there. I'm fairly adamantly against that. I think radon should be its own paragraph like termite. My entire thought process is let's minimize the number of things when a purchase agreement gets together that it can fall apart in the future. So I don't like this idea of theirs of we're going to take that radon clause out of there, and if it comes in at 2 or 10, that the buyers and sellers can negotiate that again. I like leaving it predetermined that if it's under the 4.0, the buyer's accepting. If it's above the 4.0, the seller's paying for it. And if you don't like that as a seller or as a listing agent, you want to advise your client differently, then at the time of purchase agreement, counter that back in and out. That's negotiable. Just because it's pre-printed in there doesn't mean that you're stuck with it. But I want to minimize the number of things that fall apart. So if you disagree with me about that, you can come and talk to me in private. But I think by running through most of our mastermind groups, it's been pretty consistent. 80-90% of the people have felt like leaving that in there is a good thing. So hopefully you guys agree with that. The second thing is in the uniform purchase agreement, I guess Lincoln has, they do not have this, and I'm getting all mixed conversations on this, so I need more clarity on this. Lincoln does not have this. You got 7 business days and then 3 to respond and then 3 to respond, right? In this process you go through. They have it more as a commercial real estate transaction would be, is that you've got 15 days to do due diligence. It's any and all inspections. It's not the home inspector comes out and says, oh, now you need to send out an engineer or you need to send out a roofer or someone else. Any inspections can be done during that period of time. But also in Lincoln's contract, they don't have, basically, it's all option C, because the way it works is the buyer can get out for any and all reasons. I've got crazy mixed emotions on this, but I've been stating over the last 2 to 3 months, because the number of deals we're having fall through in the inspection process phase has been crazy to me, is I would really like to push, and so I'm not sure if we have time to have a debate in this. I maybe would take 2 or 3 points of view on this. But I would like to get rid of option C, and I would like to have something in the purchase agreement, much like we had in the old days, that says this is for major defects or latent defects or something. We've got to figure out how to define that. We've not done a good job of really wrapping up how do we define what that is. And only in the event that it's a major defect over $1,000 or $1,500 that the seller is unable or unwilling to make that repair. And the second thing I'd like to have in that used to be in our purchase agreements is that we used to have a clause in there that says anything previously disclosed. So if you've said in the mastermind group, we've been talking a whole lot about having pre-inspections at the time of listing, which I'm a big fan of, right? And so if you've gave that to them and you've disclosed at or prior to the time they wrote that purchase agreement, here's things that are wrong. Anything previously disclosed is now not a reason to come back and get out of the contract. So I would like to see less deals falling through, because it feels like we're having a whole lot of them lately. So that's my entire thought process around this uniform purchase agreement. I did say that if they just go off and do all these things without giving us any input on this, we'll just pull out and we'll do our own purchase agreement. I don't see how that's good for anybody. So we're going to somehow get a seat on that committee or have a say in that. Someone had a hand up here. I apologize.
Vince, so I know you and I talked last week, and I was talking about the Florida purchase agreement that I was familiar with. And one of the things that I think would be interesting is in their purchase agreements, they have a predetermined amount that the buyer and seller have agreed upon, that if repairs go up to that amount, the seller's just going to do them. And it's already agreed upon before anything is signed and done, before the purchase agreement is done. If it goes over and above that number, then you have where an option C or a renegotiation would kick in. So like you might say, if repairs exceed $1,500, if repairs are under $1,500, seller agrees to do repairs. Otherwise, if they're over $1,500, X, happens. So it's just something I thought might be interesting to kick into there, because I think it works pretty well. But
any other questions or thoughts?
So I understand, so they're rewriting our contract for us.
Yeah, and we don't,
Ralph should be on the committee. That's bullshit.
Ralph said, that's bullshit. I agree.
Who decided that?
They was it the MLS, Scott?
Yeah, when they combine, they put
a committee together
without talking to us about it.
Well, I'm forming a committee today if we want to be on. And then we'll see all our committees.
So any other questions? But I need input from you. I want to do what the vast majority of you think is in the best interest of our buyers and our sellers in this process. But when deals come together, we want deals to stay together. And so some of the things, I think we're missing some things. One last thing that I want to talk about is that we're getting pretty much, Heather, tell me if I'm wrong, universally, everyone's saying, one is we've got a low inventory. But we really have a lower inventory than MLS shows, because we have active listings that are basically first right of refusals. We have active listings that are for backup offers. We have active listings that are really just waiting for the contingency to be removed before they take it off. So the number of listings we have really is not here, it's here. So it's even less than we thought. And Council Bluffs and other markets even have it far. They have different categories. Here's the actives without any contingencies. Here's a bucket of actives. Sarah, I'm looking at you here. A bucket of listings that are subject to removal of an inspection or some sort of contingency. And then there's the last bucket for 40-hour first right refusals or backup markets.
Pending backup is what
Pending backup. So it would be nice, I think, for us. Now the problem is, as I understand this, Zillow will only get one feed. So why we're seeing, but I think this adds value to us. Because we can tell people, listen, our clients, if you're searching on Zillow, what you're going to see is not the same information I'm going to be able to see. So call me and I'll be able to tell you the status of each one of those, because I can look that up. So I think it gives us more information, which I think adds some value to us. So it makes sense to me that we try to create a couple additional buckets on this. It's not just all thrown in this active category. Does that make sense? Does anybody disagree with that? You don't? Do you agree or disagree? Agree. But Julie, you're raising your hand.
Last February, I don't know if everybody is aware of this or not, but you no longer have to put on the market for backup offers only pending in the agent or in the public remarks, which I think makes a huge.
It's got to go in the agent remarks.
In the agent remarks, but the public doesn't have to see that, so you'll be able to see some of those homes and be able to investigate why, and if you have an opportunity to be able to sell that home.
Something's on your head. I didn't know if you knew.
Put the pressure back on the buyers.
Start again,
I said we need to put the pressure back on the buyers that they could lose a house, because if you don't pend it, and I know I've negotiated other agents, they think I cannot do that, but it's up to the seller if they want to pend it or not.
Right. Unless it's so everyone's clear. Yeah. Short of it being in the purchase agreement agreed upon by the buyer and seller, the seller has the right. They own that house up to the date of closing. They have the right to continue to keep that house on the market active. Now, the MLS will require them to put certain verbiage in certain places, but yes.
But that's the issue. I think the buyer needs a little pressure on them to know that it is being seen by other people. If they really want the house, being piddly on inspections, they should not do that. And I think that's the thing that maybe think that differently, that it
So-
should be the responsibility of the buyer to not be so piddly, because if it is shown by other people, there is a backup opportunity for another buyer.
Right now, and if your buyer cares, or if you have that opinion, you can always put in the verbiage in the purchase agreement, explain it to your buyer. We explain options to buyers and sellers, and then they make decisions. But you could put in there that house to be removed from the active market upon this, and then all of a sudden it would have to come out, because that's what would be negotiated in the purchase agreement. Any other thoughts or comments on that? Give me the speaker to Ellie.
I just wanted to say back to that inspection addendum, I am an enthusiastic supporter of going back to the old way. If you put in an amount, the buyer's going to use it no matter what, and I think that's a horrible idea.
Okay. Is that when you and Jesus were selling houses?
Back in those days.
You gotta love Ellie. Oh my God. Guys, our time's up for. No. Oh yes, please. Thank you, Heather. Heather was talking yesterday in a mastermind group, and I interrupted her twice, and she turned around like my wife and says, "Are you talking or am I talking?" I'm like, am I signing your check or are you signing my check? I mean, what the hell kind of circus we running around here? What am I talking about? Training. Yeah, we got training. I'm losing it. Thursday, please. We only get them once or twice a year. But Thursday, we have Berkshire Hathaway coming in here for 3 different sessions. Please, because they're not full yet, right? No. Please sign up. Fill these up, guys. They're going to come in here and go over the entire Resource Center toolbox that we have. They're going to drill down on the Riz Media social media partnership that we have and how you can utilize that to expand your business. They're going to talk about and drill down on the new Salesforce Sage program that has a new app, and they've claimed over the last 3 or 4 weeks that's got cleaned up and it's ready to roll. And then any questions you have on the Resource Center. But guys, please, if you're a team leader and you can't make it, get someone on your team. But fill this room. Jason's going to be here. He understands these tools. We're paying for this in our royalty fee, guys. We're paying for these tools. We're not utilizing them to the capacity we can. They give you the ability to reach out and communicate with your clients so much more effectively and efficiently than you have in the past. And the last thing that I'm a broken rule on, it's kind of like this home warranty things. If we don't end up selling buyers those programs, we're going to lose this program at the end of the day. The AdWorks. Ralph, you're still using it with crazy success, right? Who else is using AdWorks? I know there's, guys, more hands are going up on this. Please use the free week of AdWorks. This is, again, something that allows us to market and gives us a competitive advantage over anyone else in the marketplace for that first week. And it's $202, Nico, for 5 weeks, and you can take it on and off. Dave Matty, you do that. I don't know if Dave's in here or not, but if you got one listing on there for a week, you can take it off and put another listing on. So you can do 5 weeks and have 5 different listings for a week each in there. But it gets you exposure to your database. You can use this in a lot of different ways. So any of those type of questions that you have with Berkshire Hathaway relationships and tools, please show up. 9 to 11 is class number 1. 12:30 to 2:30 is class number 2. And 3 to 5 is class number 3. Please. How do they sign up?
Online.
Where?
Vinny will send out an email today.
We're going to send out an email. Look for it. We'll title it, sign up for the class.
So,
please take time to be there, guys.
And then
Brooke.
question, so thank you, TDH Contracting, Roofing, Siding, and Drywall for breakfast.
Yes, thank you.
Guys. Okay, then this Open Door Mission Bistro.
Talk about it.
Okay, well,
Stand up.
Talk about it. We're raising $5,000.
We're raising $2,500 or $5,000, depends on what we raise, right?
Well, we got to give them like a confirmation.
Okay.
Like it's either an
talk out
event
loud.
or go. So every year, you guys, we are down at the Open Door Mission. In years past, Vince had said that they had went down boxed lunches and got food programs ready for the
holiday
holidays.
meals.
Last year we've done the Christmas toy bagging, but now they've kind of evolved and now they have personal shoppers. So instead of us all going down bagging toys and then giving it to kids, they have their own personal shoppers. So that's kind of cool. But now we are wondering what we can do to help. So this year we've kind of brainstormed a couple different ideas. And so our company could go down to the Open Door Mission and provide them a dinner or a lunch, depending on how much
for whole
we
families
raise for the homeless. So our volunteer would be all ages, all family is welcome. We would all show up in like Santa hats or something. I'm just struggling with the idea. So we just, instead of them, what's different about this event for them is that they're not just going through the serving line and getting dinner. We're providing them with an event. And so we're serving them. It's like set up banquet style. So it's not just like the normal go through the line. It's kind of us making an impression. And
it's just not mainly guys, it's entire families.
It's entire families, yes. And so what Candace Gregory at the Open Door Mission has said is that we want something that stands us out or that resonates with us as a company. And so I'm thinking of ideas, and it's like, how can we, who are realtors who buy and sell homes, still be the homeless #1 supporters, right? People who don't have homes, how can we make an impression on them still and let them know we're their biggest supporters, even though, so I'm going back, and if we raise...
So the tricky part of this is we just gave them our last donation of the year, which was $5,000, and then I think we got a call 2 days later to do this. And so there's a $2,500 option and a $5,000 option. So I'm trying to figure out maybe if any agents that would want to participate would put in X dollars, the company will match that to get us to the $25,000 or $5,000. But I think it's a good cause. We've been doing things with the Open Door Mission. Where's Dick Gibb? We've been doing things with Open Door Mission, Dick, since 2000, probably. Going down there, and Dick and Ellie's been down there forever. So we love their cause. So in this case, we're going to put a little marketing piece together that we'll send it out today to see what kind of interest we have in this and to make a decision.
So
but we would like to. I'd like to get 100 of us to go down there. Maybe each person going down there would kick in $10 to $25, and then towards this program, and then we'll match the rest of it.
Yeah, and it'll be a quick survey. I mean, not quick event, but it's seamless. Open Door Mission has like their tables, everything. We show up just with spirit and talk and mingle with the homeless. So it would be next week if anybody is interested.
Yes.
So are you raising money to buy the food to do the event?
Kind of. That's how. The money that we raise.
We're sponsoring that meal for those families for that day.
Meal. Yep. Instead of not their normal serving line, it's kind of fancy event meal provided by realtors or Berkshire realtors. And then with the tagline in there, I think it would be fun just to even just like a little inspirational box, or each person we just print a quote and then give it. I don't know. These are all my ideas. So anybody have them?
The diaper drive. Diaper drive.
Yes, and that's today. So somebody has asked also, haven't we already had a diaper drive? So our goal is to fill up the big Berkshire truck with diapers and send it down to the Lydia House. So we've had different events each week that are sponsored by an approved vendor. So today at 3 o'clock, we're having a happy hour. So your admission is just to bring a pack of diapers, and you're able to happy hour with us. But then ultimately next week, we'll drive our truck down to the Lydia House. And hopefully it's full. Today, 3 o'clock.
In the garage again?
In the garage.
In the garage.
Yeah, we've already raised over 6,000 diapers. Yeah. So you're hoping, we're hoping to get.
Scott, don't be stealing any of those. Guys, thank you. We're 10 minutes over our time. Have a Merry Christmas, a happy holiday season, a Happy New Year. Continue to prospect. Get face to face with your clients, your database over this next month, so you start out next year great. Take care, guys.